Hi, this is Marlene with Miami Ghost Chronicles, and I want to welcome you to another episode of Stories of the Supernatural. Whether you're watching a video or listening to a podcast, please like and subscribe to us so that you can get notification of when a new show is released. Links to videos or MP3 files can be found on MiamiGhostChronicles.com. Go to MarlenePardo.com for information on new book releases. I narrate several podcast series that can be found on major podcast platforms and can also be listened to via Alexa, Sonos, and other home systems. Look for Supernatural Storytime for scary storytelling, Nightshade Diary for classic horror and adventure stories, Stories of the Supernatural for interviews with different guests on the show. If you want to get noteworthy news about the paranormal world, true crime, conspiracy stories, and anything that is just plain weird, just visit Stranger Than Fiction Stories tab at MiamiGhostChronicles.com or find us on Blogspot. I want to thank you for being part of my audience, and I think you are all wonderful. So, hi everybody. How's everybody doing? It's Marlene with Stories of the Supernatural. Everybody's having a good week. I am too. Everything is well here. When I have a chance, I'm gonna go out there and shoot a short film of all the chickens because, like I said, I've got 5 chicks of my hen that hatched. I bought some blue Andalusians, and I've got 2 more hens that have gone renegade on me again. And all of a sudden, I look, and it's like, wait a minute, what's under there? Under that tarp, it's my chicken on top of 12 eggs. And one of them is very special because she's a frizzy. And anybody that's familiar with Chicken World, frizzies are real cute and fluffy. And they have little eggs. And I've got one of those on 5 eggs. I've had those frizzies for like 4 years. I picked them up when they were just hatched out of pet shop. And they're real difficult to bring especially when you don't have a mama hen with one of the lamps, but I have them. I have like 3 of them. So, and I'm going to see if I take some videos for you guys of Chicken World on the homestead. That's number 1. Number 2, remind you guys to sign up for the my Substack newsletter. Okay, it comes out once or twice a week. Interesting stuff, weird articles, just off the cuff stuff, new writing projects. Also, if you go to Erie.news, I do that about every other day. That's just news stories of weird, unusual things, like stuff to take your mind off reality. Like, I mean, why not, right? And then I had somebody ask me the other day about my hair, because for those of you who caught my New Year's resolution video where we were talking about people and their New Year's resolutions, and right about now, what is it? May is when New Year's resolutions start going like into the ditch. And I promised, I made a New Year's resolution, I wasn't going to cut my hair. All right. Which I've had my hair on the short end for like maybe the last 20, 25 years. And so far, I've been close to it. There's been days that, you look in the mirror and you go like, oh, and you think you're having a bad hair day, but for anybody that's had short hair for a really long time, everything looks like a bad hair day. So far, I have not touched my hair. I've not even trimmed it. And I promised 1 year on January 1st, I'll go ahead and get it trimmed, because if I took all this trouble to let it grow, I'm going to let it grow out, but I haven't touched it because I'm afraid to touch it. I'm afraid that if I go for a trim, I'm going to tell it, take it off. So yeah, I have stuck to my New Year's resolution. I'll put a link to my New Year's resolution video about hypnosis and New Year's resolutions and why so many people, they start the New Year's resolution right about now is when things start falling apart for apparently different reasons, but in reality, no, it's just our subconscious mind. But that's a whole nother show. Let's get on to the good part. The good part is who we have as guests. One of them has been here before. His name is Preston Dennett, and he began investigating UFOs and the paranormal in 1986 when he discovered that his family, friends, and co-workers were having dramatic, unexplained encounters. Since then, he has interviewed hundreds of witnesses and investigated a wide variety of paranormal phenomena. He is a field investigator for the Mutual UFO Network, aka MUFON, a ghost hunter, a paranormal researcher, and the author of 28 books and more than 100 articles on UFOs and the paranormal. Now, in his latest book that he released titled Symmetry, a True UFO Adventure, he tells the story of how in January of 1973, 14-year-old Dolly Safran gazed out the window of her home near the Florida Everglades. Without warning, a UFO dropped from the sky and hovered in her backyard. To her shock, Dolly could see thin, gray-skinned figures with large dark eyes staring back at her. I could read the rest, but I'm not going to because we're going to let her tell us about it. Anyway, this book is not only a gripping true life adventure story, it answers many of the questions surrounding the UFO phenomenon. Why are they here? Where do they come from? What is the alien agenda on our planet? Fully illustrated with eyewitness drawings and UFO photographs, Symmetry, a true UFO adventure, contains a profound message to all humanity directly from the ETs. So help me welcome them. How are you guys doing today?
Doing very well. How are you?
Hi.
Great. Nice to meet you, Dolly. And
Nice
I'm
to meet
glad
you
to have
also.
you back, Preston. Okay, I was going to say, so what have you been up to? But I can see what you've been up to. Let me tell you, what part of, I was born and raised in Miami, Dolly.
Really?
Yes.
Wow.
And, Everglades were always to the west of us. So
Right.
I kind of understand what you're talking about as far as people don't realize that Everglades, there's still a lot of areas that are uncharted or unknown about the Everglades, even at this point.
Yes.
So go ahead.
I know there's been a lot of building out there since I left. When I was young, we were out past 124th Avenue, which I understand that's all the way down to 148th or something like that. I still have friends that live out there. It's way out there. But it was Bird Road all the way near the Gumbo Limbo Trail.
Yeah,
So,
Bird.
yeah.
God, yeah. See, this me and her are on the same wavelength. Because I tell everybody, I was living in Miami when they built the Palmetto Expressway.
Wow.
Okay.
Okay.
And everything out there was dairy cows. Everybody sees Miami now. They have no
Brahma
idea
as well.
It was,
Brahmas too. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Miami Beach, what's downtown Miami now, and everything west of that was dairy cows, and then the Everglades.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. And maybe, that agricultural area in Homestead, where they used to have the orange groves and stuff like that. But that was, again, strictly agricultural. Then you'd go into, the Keys, Florida City, all that stuff.
Yeah.
But that was like not no man's land. But as a matter of fact, I researched one time, even at the turn of the century, outlaws would go into the Everglades because even the lawmen wouldn't go after them because it was so full of mosquitoes and stuff.
Right. Snakes,
that a lot
gators,
of them would hide out,
thing.
like in the Everglades and Chokoloskee and all that area, 10,000 Islands, a little bit on the West Coast.
I used to go out to 10,000 Islands. Yeah.
Yeah. So, okay, now that Preston's looking at us going, all right.
I've been
But
there.
Anyway, I can attest that what she's describing is absolutely what it is. You go now, there's an area that it's called Kendall now.
Right.
They had strawberry fields out
Well,
there.
Kendall's always kind of, the city of Kendall. But you remember where Kendall Mall was? Deadland and all that? Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
Yeah.
With the big
all
horse.
That, of course.
Yeah.
US 1 was Old South Dixie Highway. You remember that they made it big, but there was Old South Dixie Highway. And that was the one road that you could take to go south into the Florida Keys. And, there was these little towns, that Cutler Ridge. That
Rickenbacker Causeway. Is the shark still out there? Or is it gone now? Oh
no! I guess it was too realistic, and it became a politically correct dolphin.
Oh,
the reason why I say this is, what was it? Was it a tiger shark? I think that they had.
Yes, it was a big tiger shark, and he was mean. His teeth were showing, and everything.
To Brandon Park or Rickenbacker Causeway, which has been around for. They had this huge life-size tiger, which I'm thinking, was it a real tiger that they stuffed? It might have been, right?
It was one they caught and they fiberglassed him and put him in there.
They had him like twirling around, but it was, nobody forgot that. And the entrance to just the thing to see when you're going into the beach.
Right.
I don't know where I lost. At some point, they took off and they put a big dolphin with two baby dolphins. I was like, oh, come on. Yeah, I was too like, why remind people, like, give the beach a bad name? The shark could get you. But believe it or not, back once in a while, off over there, Key Biscayne, there was reports of that they
Right.
would haul in tiger sharks. You know that,
Yep.
right?
Yep. When I was a teenager, I landed a lifeguard job. I had to fight for it. I mean, we all competed with one another. I was 17, and
Yeah.
I did it. I got a spot on a tower. Okay, and
Mhm.
2 or 3 times I've been on the boats with them. They had the gas pellets on the,
Mhm.
and we go out there and shoot one and drag it out to sea, trying to get them to follow us back out because they were mating, and we have these huge waves of sharks coming in, all different kinds. And yeah,
Right.
they had tiger sharks coming from time to time. Yep.
Well, what people don't realize is that tiger sharks, everybody thinks of the great white as being man
No,
eaters, but tiger
no,
sharks
they're
are
their
known
own
to
breed. Yeah,
they'll take
eat
you.
anything. They will eat human beings. Yes,
Yes, they
no
do.
problem.
They
Yep.
do. So, yeah. And
Well, I got to tell you what high school I went to. I don't know where you went.
what high school
I
did you go
graduated
to?
Southwest Miami Senior High School.
No,
That
you
was
know
my
what?
alma mater. Yeah.
I was living at that time in Hialeah because we moved to Hialeah when all that there
Ah,
was
okay.
in Hialeah was the racetrack.
Right.
Okay, it was a
Been
very
there.
sleepy
Done
southern
that.
town.
Right. Yeah.
Nobody lived out there. And
Nope.
the only
Yeah.
thing was in the winter, the horse races would come to Hialeah racetrack,
Right.
and the houses were cheap. You know, I think it
Right.
was a slew of houses that they built like after World War II and stuff like
Yes.
that.
Right.
And we moved out there, and I went to Monsignor Edward Pace, which was in Opelika.
Right. Oh
And
wow.
a
My
lot
sister
of my
lives
friends
in
went to
Oklahoma.
Hialeah High School, and then
Yeah.
eventually we moved out west, southwest. But yeah, up
Wow.
to like
Okay.
1980, I lived in Hialeah. That's what I'm saying. I saw all that transformation of that whole area, South Florida, as far as Miami-Dade County and
Right.
Monroe County,
Right.
how it
It
changed.
exploded. Yes.
Yeah,
I know.
yeah. You know that over there, a lot of people, and I'm going to ask you if you remember this, Dolly, and we'll get back to the subject. Do
Okay.
you ever remember um, east of Hialeah when it became like the Northwest section? I heard at one point that later on it was converted into an like an old trailer park, believe it or not, in Hialeah. That one time it was a POW camp for Germans.
Yes, absolutely. I heard
You know
that.
which
Yeah.
one?
Yep.
It was
My
close to a
grandfather talked
drive-in.
about it. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep. I
A
know
lot of
about
people
it.
don't believe that we had something like that right there, but
Yes,
we
we
did.
did. We did.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Got to
So
remember they had a couple of bases on in Florida near, south of there, and they
yeah.
didn't put the camps too close to the bases, but they were bringing
Mhm.
them in. Yes, they were.
Right. And the one in Richmond Heights is where the
Yeah.
one that they had is the what they call Zeppelins. They
Right.
had those based out of there.
Yep.
And yeah. As a matter of fact, they still
Florida
have a
was
lot of
busy.
towers there.
Yeah.
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 People don't realize a lot of stuff was going on in South Florida, even though it kind of was like nothing going on, kind of. But being on
Yeah.
the tip of Florida, yeah. So now that okay, now that we was Preston is like, can we talk about the UFOs?
No.
But anyway, okay, 1973. Well, okay, I don't know whoever wants to go first. How did okay, you had this experience, Dolly, and how did you or when did you decide that to tell that story and get together with Preston? And if you want to go into how that happened and what the
Okay. All right. Okay. My experiences started at about 10 months old. And my father was a contactee also, but I didn't know about it until after
okay,
1973. Um, so I remember I have patches of memory of knowing something was going on with me. And by the time I was 14, I was losing it. Okay. I just wanted to know, am I nuts or is this real? Okay. I was
mm-hmm,
all on my own about it. My mother hated talking about it and I didn't know what to do. And so I decided that the next time something started happening to me, that was going to be it. That was the moment that started. I would go for it and try to remember, force myself, make something
okay,
happen, plead. I don't know. And I was out. I used to remember the Miami-Dade Transit Planetarium. I
of
took
course,
astronomy lessons there. Okay. And I had my
okay,
telescope out one night and I was doing my homework. It's 1 o'clock in the morning. It's in the summertime. I was doing summer school that year.
okay,
And my dad said, go to bed. And I said, okay. So I packed down my scope, went into my room, got dressed, ready for bed, but I don't really sleep. I sleep maybe 2 or 3 hours a day only. That's it. And my bed was right next to the wall where my big jalousied windows were. You remember that they had the tile ledges on them and everything?
yep,
So I used to
absolutely,
sit on my bed and look like this out the window. I always had my windows open. And I was looking up in the sky and I realized, holy cow, there's hundreds of lights up there and they're not stars. And I went, oh my God, it's happening. It's happening. Okay. I couldn't believe what I was seeing, but it was happening. And I watched them and they paired off in twos and they went east, west, north, and south. Okay. Two pairs of two came down. Two went toward Dayland Mall and the other two came out to where we were. Okay. They were, in other words, two went east of us and two came to us. One went further west to the Glades, and one came down over our property, our house, the back of our house actually, and it came down right behind where my room was, and I could see the trees start whipping around, you know. And you remember the trees that would fold up like they were going to sleep? I had two of those in the back. Okay.
Yes.
And
yes.
Every last one of those leaves went bloop like that, and they were trying to sway, and I was like, oh my. What the hell? And I'm memorizing this thing as it's coming down because it changed.
And how old
color.
were you at this time, Dolly?
I was 14.
14? Okay.
Yeah, going on 15, almost 15. It was January. I was about 14 and 3/4. Okay.
Okay.
My birthday is Sunday, by the way.
Oh, happy
so
birthday.
we're coming up on it. Thank you. Preston's is Friday.
Happy birthday to you, Preston.
Yeah. So as it came down, you know, I saw it. I realized it was metallic and I'm staring at it. I'm trying to memorize it now. I mean, I'm committing it heavy into my memory. I'm not going to forget this. Not. And I got all the way up to the top of it, looking at it. I mean, every detail of it. And I see ports, you know, port windows. And in those port windows were one being in each one staring dead at me through my window. And I was like, you know, and I thought, no, I can't handle that. They were different, okay? And I turned and I was going to dive under my bed. I mean, what else do you do when you're that freaked out? And I never made it to the floor. The room exploded in blue white light and I froze and my memory ends there. I woke up on the floor 3 or 4 hours later. My mom was out in the kitchen making breakfast for my dad. And I was sitting there in somebody else's jammies, not mine, inside out, backwards, and feeling yucky, you know? I felt funky. And I was mad. I started crying. I was so mad because I wanted to remember. And I thought, damn it, you know, what the hell is wrong with me? Okay. So I went and got in the shower because I had to go to school that day. And I got my shower, got dressed. I moseyed into the kitchen, sat down. My mom said, make coffee. I made coffee. And I'm questioning her by this time. I'm like, Mom, did you guys hear anything last night? Did you see anything? Lights, you know. When I got to there, she turned around and, you know, she said, what are you talking about? I said, you know, something weird going on. And that's when she put her finger in my face and said, no, which meant shut up. Okay. She hated talking about that stuff. So I sat down and had my very first cup of coffee ever.
It was the equivalent, like, I can't have a drink, so let me have some coffee instead.
That's about it.
Let me ask you something. You said that your dad was he living in that same area when he had his experiences?
No, he was living up in Wisconsin. He lived in Bancroft. They had a huge dairy farm up there. Okay. Cows. Okay. And he and his brother decided to go camping. There's a big national park up there with a big lake on it and everything, and right near them. And they pilfered one of the turkeys and went off to kill it and camp out and eat turkey. And they did it, you know, they got it plucked and they got it spitted and they're cooking the thing and it exploded. They didn't take the packet out of it. Yeah, stupid. So they ran up to the lake with the turkey because they're not losing dinner. They're hungry. And they're cleaning the turkey out. And they finally pulled the packet out. They figured out how to do it. And they had to wash off too because they had turkey guts all over them. Okay. They were wringing their clothes out. They're trying to put their clothes back on. And they saw light across the lake. And my dad says that it came up over the lake and then just that fast, it was over the top of their heads. They were looking up at it. My dad tried to run. He couldn't move. He said he was frozen to the spot. And he guesses his brother was too. He was standing behind him. The next thing my dad remembers is being on board and talking to Grace. And he said they weren't the little Grace. He met the tall Grace first. Okay. And they talked to him for a couple hours, you know, about his life and everything. And he realized that they were following us, our family, and they hadn't wanted to know what he was going to do with his life. They talked to him about it. My father was already wanting to be an architect at that age. He could draw anything. He could already draw Greek buildings. You know, the key, like you'll see a column, and you've got this spiral thing that's all square looking. It's called a key. And anyway, so long story short, he had that experience. I did not know about it until after mine, and I was freaking out because when I was sitting at the table drinking coffee, the news came on. We had, you remember, what's his name? Shoot,
Paul Harvey.
Paul Harvey. Thank you. Paul Harvey was on. Okay.
Okay.
Every morning. You remember that? Every
Yes.
morning. Okay. So the news came on, and the news immediately went to 2 Dayland police officers reported a UFO this morning early. And they described it. They talked about it. It buzzed them twice. Literally buzzed them, scared the hell out of them. And I was like, oh my God, it's real. I have confirmation. First time in my life ever. I'm not out of my mind. Okay. I blew up in the kitchen. My mother turned around and she went, no, 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 no. You're dreaming. Get out of the kitchen now. Dejected me start walking out the door. And my dad was rounding the corner and he said, just go calm down. Go meditate something. I'll talk to you about it later. So I walked back to the bathroom, shut the door, turned the lights out, locked it, slid to the floor. And at first I started crying because it was overwhelming me. And then I started trying to remember everything.
Okay.
And I picked it apart. I mean, I started with the first sight and I tick my memory, each little thing, seeing it in my mind. And God helped me. I started to remember at that moment. I started pulling it back. Okay.
Okay.
And I didn't have all of it, but by God, by the time I made it to school that day, it was hitting me hard. I also had a migraine headache from the whole thing. It was killing me. My first thing that happened is my friend grabbed me and ran the bathroom with me. And she said, guess what I saw? Guess what I saw? I'm like, oh my God. And she said, I saw a UFO. And I said, where were you? And she told me. And she wanted to tell everybody. And I said, no, they're going to think you're crackers. No, we're going to keep this a secret. You will be ostracized.
And I take it she
Nobody
lived
will
close
talk
to you then, right?
Very close, yes. We'd known each other. Her dad was also in the Army, and he was there, infantry as well.
Okay.
My dad was an airborne ranger. So I had a really, really, really bad headache. I couldn't do anything. I couldn't think. And one of my teachers in the science department was kind of geeky, a very intelligent guy, knew a lot about everything. And he had this biofeedback machine, and he was hot to try it on somebody. He said, come here, I want to try this on you. I'm like, okay, all right, fine. So I didn't know it, but he put electrodes on my head, and it ran a train if you could put your brain into alpha. And I started that sucker up the minute he told me to do it. It was going. And that freaked me out. Okay. And I decided, I'm leaving. I'm going. I'm out of here. I picked myself up out of that chair that I was sitting in. And I left. I walked off property. Now, where Southwest Miami Senior is. It's 86.
Yes.
Okay. I had to walk all the way back. You know how far that is. That's a long damn way. And they had the Metro buses, but they only went to Westchester. Okay. Westchester Mall and just a little bit past that, but not much past it. They weren't going out that far. So I had to get off there and walk the rest of the way. Well, I kept playing it over and over and over and over in my head like crazy. Okay. And by the time I walked in the door, the headache was leaking out my ears. I felt like there was fluid draining out of my head. And my nose was running. I had a bloody nose. I mean, I was just messed up. Okay. But I had it. I remembered. I got cleaned up. I didn't want to talk to anybody. I just went and lay down. I didn't eat dinner that night, and I just laid there. Okay. My dad finally showed up, and he said, I want to take you somewhere tomorrow. Be ready to go early in the morning because it was Sunday. Okay. And I said, okay. I mean, Saturday, excuse me. And I said, okay. And he got up with me in the morning, put me in the car, and there's nowhere to eat in Miami back then. Okay.
Sure. Especially out west like that.
Oh, I know. And so he brought a thermos full of coffee, 2 cups. He drank black, so I was drinking black with him at that point. And he brought some bread and cheese, breakfast. And we sat in the car. He pulled over near, Grand Union Shopping Mall. I don't know if it's still there or not.
I remember the Grand Union. They don't exist anymore, but I remember them. Yeah.
Oh, wow. Okay. And we were sitting in the parking lot because there's nobody there that early in the morning. And just sitting there and talking. And he's trying to get me to tell him what the hell happened. And I'm not understanding why he's so damn
Right.
interested. You know, I thought I was in trouble, honestly. Okay. I thought my mother was getting me in trouble. And he finally
Right.
said, I got something to tell you. And he told me about his encounter, his first encounter,
Wow.
and that he was a contactee and it's lifelong and he is aware, fully aware also. He's conscious. Okay. And I'm like, wow, you know,
And
freaking me out. You know, I just like
that probably
staring
at
at
that
him.
point saved your sanity because
Well, yeah, I wanted to die at that moment. I was like, you know, my reality is already split in two by this time. My head hurts, my nose was bleeding. I mean, I was messed up. Okay.
yeah.
And I said, I don't know what I'm going to do. I don't know how to handle this. I'm freaking out because I remembered things. Okay. He said, I'm going to take you somewhere. It's somebody who can hypnotize. This is why I love talking to you tonight. And we're going to see if it helps calm you down. That was what he said. And I didn't know what the hell hypnotism was back then. I was a teenager. And I said, okay.
Okay.
So we went to this house. It was north of Hialeah. It was in near West Palm somewhere. Okay. Lake
Okay.
Worth.
My
He
Lake
lived
Worth.
in Lake
Yeah, I'm
Worth.
familiar with Lake Worth. Yeah.
Okay. When I got there, he introduced me to this guy. His name was Edgar Mitchell,
Okay.
astronaut Edgar Mitchell.
Wow.
My father
Okay.
worked for NASA and he knew Edgar Mitchell. I didn't
Okay.
know how well he knew Edgar Mitchell, but it freaked me out because I knew who Edgar Mitchell was. Okay.
Right.
He was developing this institute, Consciousness Institute. He's very into that. And so he started trying to hypnotize me. He got me a big glass of water. He let me go to the bathroom. We did breathing exercises, you know, calming things. He helped me meditate for 5 minutes, 10 minutes,
Okay.
you know, and he was trying to lower me down into calm. Okay. And he, at that point, was walking me through the process of going under. And he said, look, I might not be able to take you under right away. It might take a few sessions, you know,
Mm-hmm.
to get you there. I'm like, okay. And about, I don't know, 30 minutes in, he stopped. He looked my dad in the face and said, she is not going to be hypnotized. And he's
Okay.
like, why? He said, she won't relinquish control ever. And I just looked at
Okay.
him. I said, what do you mean? And he said, you won't allow anybody to mess with you. Nobody. And I said, well, that's true. He said, best I
Okay.
can teach you is how to give you meditation techniques, breathing techniques. You know, I'm going to teach you transcendental meditation, which I already knew because you remember the Hare Krishnas that used to live out in the Glades?
Yes. Yes.
I was on
Yes.
their campus a lot. Okay, so
Yes.
I had a good time with those guys. So I already knew how to do meditation. Okay, and
Okay.
he said, that's good. And he gave me some things to think about. He told me, he began telling me about his experiences. He swore me to absolute secrecy. I will never divulge anything this man ever told me, ever. Okay.
Okay.
But he helped me understand what I was facing. Okay. And he told me the last thing he said before I left with him that day was, you're going to be contacted. And he said, it's going to be psychic and you have to be calm when it happens. And he says, please follow what they say to you. I'm like, okay. So about 4 days later, sure enough, I got downloaded with a message you wouldn't believe. It was massively involved in fast, you know? And I
Mm-hmm.
sat there thinking, okay, wait. Do that again?
Let me
Wait.
ask you something, Dolly.
Okay.
Did what was happening to you ever overlap with your dad? Did they ever take you both or contact you both? Or
I'm
had they
not allowed to
stopped with
talk
him
about
and
it.
just kept on with you?
I cannot talk about that ever. I'm sorry.
Okay. That's fine.
Yeah.
That's fine.
But
Okay.
I will say this. My father's mission was not mine, but I experienced some things with him
Okay.
ipso facto. Okay.
Okay.
Can I tell you why?
Okay. I was just wondering if,
Okay.
because it sounds like you said, like at some point he knew what he had experienced. In
He
other
did. Oh,
words, he had
he
gone
was always
beyond that. I
conscious.
can't
Yeah.
remember.
They never knocked him out. He was never allowed. He never decided to be unaware. He's always been
Okay.
aware his whole life.
Okay. Okay.
We're very psychic on his side of the family. My great grandmother, his grandmother, was like the family, you know, scary person, and she knew everything. Okay,
Mm-hmm.
and my father was psychic as well. So was my mom. Uh, uh,
Okay.
so yeah, and
Let me ask you something. That time that you described that he was taken in Wisconsin after, with a turkey escapade. It sounds,
Yeah.
had he been taken before that point, or was that the
No,
first time?
he said he doesn't think so. He thinks that they were just
Oh, okay.
quietly watching him, because they can hear you
Okay.
think.
Now I understand.
Okay. I think they were waiting for him to get away where he wouldn't be seen. They had a lot of hands on that farm. It was constantly busy. It was a
Oh,
3,000
okay.
cow dairy farm, which was
Yes.
massively huge, and everybody was working all the time. I mean, you have to do cows twice a day, and there's a lot going on
Oh,
in between all that. So yeah, I don't
okay.
think they had a
Okay.
chance.
So let's fast forward. You said 4 days
Yeah.
later, you get
Yeah,
what?
I got a message and it pretty much said, we're coming to get you in less than 48 hours, which didn't give me much of an idea about place and time, but I was like, okay. And they said, be ready. And they had a thing. I had to be clean. I had to be wearing something comfortable and preferably no shoes. I'm like, okay. So I adopted socks at that point. And I was just wandering around my room and the light, it lit up like a banshee. And I saw a huge energy ribbon come through the roof, the window, and the wall. It was big, okay? And down this ribbon came two grays, little AI grays, the ones I saw in that craft, okay? And one held his hand out to me. And I'm like, okay, be brave. And I took his hand and he sort of wrapped my arm around this midsection, held on to me, and took me up that ribbon. The minute we made contact with it, we became weightless. I mean, it was like, oh my God. And he got us all the way to the top. And when we got to the craft, they had an open port door, oblong, okay, rectangular. And he pushed me through it, and that made me uncomfortable because I didn't know what I was looking at. That ribbon is very, very bright. Okay, it's shine. Ooh, And I hit the deck, went down on my butt, and I looked up, and there's this woman standing there looking down at me. And I realized that she is not short. She's very, very tall, taller than me. And she wasn't smiling, but she had the most beatific look in her eyes you ever saw in your life. Okay. She had huge blue-green eyes. She mesmerized me. Okay. Beautiful woman, elegant even. And all of a sudden I hear, hi. And she said, do you remember me? I'm Mama. And I was like, oh, I do remember you. I remember her. Okay. I remembered her. And she said, I love you. And she said, stand up. Come stand up with me. And when we stood up, that was the first time that I remember they don't hug or kiss or anything. They touch foreheads and they inhale. They breathe each other in. And she greeted me that way. And she said, I'm so happy, you've crossed over into an awareness that we've been hoping you would walk and wake up. And I was like, oh my God, And the two grays and her took me by the hand and they walked me through the craft. It's a little craft, okay? And we were traveling, and the next thing I know, I see in the open port window, big craft, okay? And I was like, oh crap, here we go. It was huge. And he flashed at us, okay? Like, welcome. And in the front of it, they opened another panel and we went in through that panel. And we transferred. The ships got really, really close to one another. That energy ribbon showed up. Only this time we weren't holding it and touching it. We were sort of like it kind of enveloped us a little bit and got us through to the other side. Okay. It can magnify itself or get small. You can use it either way. And we got in, and there were two more grays in there, smaller. And they gave me about 5 minutes to orient myself. Everybody was saying hi. And then I hear this voice in my head. And I knew instantly who it was. He said, welcome. And he also said, do you remember me? And I was like, oh my God. And he said, it's Talata. And I remembered that I'm the one that calls him that. It's his nickname for me alone. Okay. Nobody else. I can't say his name. It's long. You've heard Icelandic, right? It's like that. It's so bloody long. I couldn't do it. And I speak Swedish and I couldn't do it. Okay. So TLERA is part of his name in it. And I said, can I just say Talata? And he said, okay.
Okay.
He welcomed me. He was so happy to see me, and we just enjoyed each other's company for 10 minutes. He started talking to me about what was happening to me. He said, we're going to take you on a tour of the ship. We're going to reacquaint you with everything. And he said, so have a good time. And I went with Mama and two of the ETs, two of the small rays. They took me all the way back through everything. I saw everything. And every time I saw something, my brain went, oh, I know this. I know this. I know this. It shook me up. I was shaking. I wanted to puke, and I did. And
Okay.
I mean, I puked bad.
Dolly, do you think they took you then because they were planning to at that age, or was it because you started to recover your memories?
I think they were hoping that I was going to fulfill something that they were hoping I would fulfill. In other
Okay.
words, a lot of people have the same contact that I have had my whole life, but not everybody overcomes this wall of fear that envelopes everybody. Okay,
Sure.
not everybody is as determined as I am, and so I think there's a bunch of us that are out there that are just not on it yet, not aware, totally aware yet, or maybe they are and they're just not talking. I mean, I think there's a whole range of that going on.
If
Once
I
they
could
got me,
jump in for a second,
yeah,
just
go ahead.
just to clarify a few things, because Dolly's talking about Mama as a beautiful woman. She's actually a tall gray,
Right.
just so you
Yeah.
know, and Talata is the entity
So
who actually embodies the ship. Many
Right.
witnesses have talked to me about this, how the UFOs, the craft, are themselves alive,
sentient, in
living
other
entities.
words?
Yes. And
Yes.
this is what Dolly remembered, and she had first met Mama when she was 6 years old. When she came down after watching Mary Poppins, she thought it was Mary
An
Poppins
umbrella.
with an umbrella, but she was pulled on board a craft. She met Mama for the first time, but still wasn't connecting the dots. But at this experience at age 14, she gets to meet Mama fully consciously. Well, I mean, she
Right.
remembers.
I remember there's been a couple of sci-fi shows where the rocket or the spacecraft is sentient, not robotic, sometimes, but actually sentient. It's a
Yes.
Right.
sentient being.
He is a disembodied, non-corporeal, interdimensional being, very, very highly evolved and old, been around a long time. And he indwells the craft. The craft is slightly biological, like the AI grays are, the small ones.
Mhm.
And
Right.
the ship becomes his body, and he runs everything on the ship, everything. All ET craft, all of them are that way. There are sentient beings running those crafts.
Okay.
So they're psychically
Let me
run.
ask you, are they sentient because of whoever's in there meshes with it? Or
Yes,
is it has its
indwelling.
own individual sentience? In other words,
No, it's being indwelled by that being Talara. Yes.
okay. All right.
Yeah, just like the human body. The
Yeah.
human body itself
Right.
is not conscious. We
Right.
embody it.
Right. We
Exactly.
indwell our own bodies. Yeah. Um,
Okay.
Once they got me through, reacclimating to everything, they even showed me my quarters, which I was surprised about that. I had quarters, and I actually had to go to the bathroom because I was puking so bad and I need to clean up. Okay. They
Uh-huh.
wanted my clothes off me anyway. They wanted me to decontaminate. So we got all my clothes off me because I puked everywhere, cleaned me
Okay.
up, got me decontaminated, gave me something to wear, and took me back in with Talata, who's in what I term the helm. Okay. They think of it as the place of movement. That's how they think about this. Okay.
Okay.
Their diction, their syntax, everything is so off us. They're very much like us, but we're talking about beings that think differently because they're that evolved.
Right.
They sat me down in the seat. They let me feel it, the pilot seat. They explained it to me. They walked me through it, told me what it was, blah 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 blah, and told me that it was very very difficult to drive in the way that it's meant to be driven, but they had a way to let me pilot it for a short distance. And they moved me over. They wanted to take me out first time with the gray pilot. They wanted me to feel it, see it, understand it. So first time I flew with them after 14, a gray was driving. We came back and then brought me home, and it took a couple of weeks before they picked me back up again. I really needed to get over myself. I really, really
How
did.
long? How long were you gone that first time?
I want to say 6 hours
Okay.
total. They
Yeah,
always bring me back.
Dolly's skipping over some stuff too. I mean, they took her to visit the moon, Saturn,
Really?
which may sound, amazing, but I tell you, I've heard this before from other contactees.
Yeah.
So
They
this
wanted
is
me to
not
see
as
the solar
unusual as you
system
might
where I
think.
lived. Yeah. They wanted me to, when I was
And you-
little, they would take me to another planet, and I think they were trying to reacclimate me to the universe and to the solar system and all of that. They're trying to bring my memory back up and see how I reacted to it. They took me to Saturn because I had really never been there before. And they took me
Okay.
to the moon because that was relevant in my life. We did a salt
Okay.
land, they showed me stuff. We sat there talking about it, and they asked me to divulge to them what I was thinking, and if I could have any job with them, if I could do anything with them at all, what would that be? And that's what, right then and there, that's when I decided I was going to fly. Literally. I
Okay.
told them
So
I'm going to fly.
basically, you're telling me they couldn't read your mind,
No, they can read my mind, but
or
when
okay,
you're emotional, highly, highly, highly emotional, and you're
okay,
trying to think through things, they want you
okay.
to express yourself, because I was getting back into using my psychic mind, not my mouth. I
Right.
wasn't
Right.
speaking with my mouth. And they don't talk like we do. They don't have too many words, but they have concepts. And they were running me through it again. They were getting me to. That's the thing. I do this all the time to Preston. It's like, were you talking or were you? I'm always psychic when I'm with them. I never ever speak my mouth. Once in a while I do, but not much. I don't
Okay.
use a lot of words. So yeah, they were running me through my ability to communicate with them. They were reattaching me to it.
Okay.
I had to
Okay.
become reorient into being fluent with them.
So
It's a
how do
lot
you
to
come back
learn.
from this and just become a high school student? I'd be like, I'm
That's
not going back to school.
wow, that's been the conflict of my entire life. I mean, can you imagine being taught with them young? I remembered all my lessons eventually, okay? I used to
Uh-huh.
sit in school and drive everybody insane. When I was little, I already knew everything and couldn't figure out how I already knew it, okay? My teachers got so mad at me, one taped my mouth shut. I'm not kidding. In the second grade, she had enough of me. And then the principal said, "You can't do that." She's going to
Like
piss her
your
parents
mouth.
off. And so they sent me to the library after that. I do my work and get out of that room and go to the library. And I read pretty much every book in that library by the time I was in
Okay.
the sixth grade. Um, so it's been like that all the way through high school, junior high school, the whole thing.
Okay.
I was already going to Miami-Dade half a day when I was 16. I was in the
Okay.
accelerated program. We were a college preparatory school anyway, so I did half
Right.
day, and I was just finishing up credits, and I was going to Miami-Dade Junior at that point. We graduated from Miami-Dade Junior because I had an
Yes.
associate's
I
at the same
mean,
time.
I know. I went to Miami-Dade for my first 2 years.
Okay,
I know what you're
there you
talking
go.
about there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So
what Dolly's talking about is quite common among contactees. This is why I think David Jacobs called his book Secret Life. Because Dolly, that was one of the first things she told me. She says, I don't know how to explain this to you, but I live two separate lives, one with the ETs and one here on Earth. And it's a culture shock no matter which way you're going. Coming up to the ETs, it's a completely different environment. Back here on Earth, where
yeah,
it's completely different the
So
way we live.
let me ask you something, Dolly. This is what I'm asking you. Here you are. I mean, for all your understanding, you're still a teenager.
right.
Okay.
Yep.
How are you handling being, like you said, living this life of a normal teenager in high school?
I didn't. I didn't.
You
I
did.
literally did not. I was isolated. I had very few friends. I picked
Okay.
them carefully.
All
They
right.
had to beat me up practically to get me to go out with them and do stuff. I was
Okay.
constantly yanking my teeth out trying.
All right.
Um, I preferred to be alone when I was home. I did not. I had a lot to think about, and a lot was going on with me. And then I had to still live my life. I mean,
Right.
Mama, it demanded that I fulfill my reason for being here in the first place. She says, "You have a long life here. You need to learn to acclimate and
Do
be
you have any,
human."
did,
And
did you have any siblings, Dolly?
I have one brother, younger, And
Did he have? Do you think he was having his own?
no, my poor brother, we don't know what happened. When he was in the first or second grade, they called my mom and said, come get him. It's an emergency. And I got in the car with her. You know, she couldn't leave me home alone. I was
Right.
homesick that day. And he was seeing double when they called her. He was seeing 4 of everything by the time she got to him. She dropped
Okay.
me off at her friend's house and went screaming to Georgia Baptist with them. Okay. My dad met her there. By the time my dad got there, his eyes were fixed and dilated. I mean, it was a mess. Everybody said, Mary, you may have a kid with a midbrain tumor and he's going to die. This is bad. This was that
Okay.
bad. They drained his spinal fluid and they put him. You remember the torturous tests they did back then? There were no MRIs. They did a pneumoencephalogram on him.
Wow.
My mom's friend had brought me up to the hospital because when they said he might die, they weren't going to leave me home and not be able to see him at least one more time.
Sure.
This is emotional for me.
I'm sorry. I didn't mean to ask you that. I didn't realize.
Yeah, it took his brain out. His psychic ability went gone. He survived it. He came
Okay.
back from it after all that, but he lost his abilities. I couldn't communicate with him psychically at all.
Let me ask you something. But what
Yeah.
happened with him? Was it a tumor or what happened with him?
No, they don't know.
They don't. That's
They don't
weird.
know. They don't have any clue. One doctor speculates that he had a midbrain infection, but nobody knows how that bloody could have happened. You know, they don't know. I do know that he had eye surgery. He was cross-eyed. He had a bad muscle on one eye. It's my opinion that when they did that surgery, that's when they infected his brain, and because your ocular nerve is midbrain as well, and I think that's what did it. I think that's how it got in, but it silenced him forever. My brother had a 186 IQ. He always still had a 186. He was
But
very
not,
intelligent, but not psychic anymore at all. And that broke me. That was hard. That was really hard on
I can
me.
imagine. That must have been a very.
That isolated me completely. You know.
So, in other words, one way or the other, you would never have known because like you were saying, you know, that it was a family thing, you know,
Right.
so that's why I asked that.
Yeah.
But that's a very unusual occurrence.
I know I kept trying to get him to listen to me. He was in astronomy as well, and he was an amateur astronomer. I mean, you should see his telescope. I mean, it's huge. We'd go out and go together. We watched Betelgeuse, you know, Micronova, and everything. I mean, we had a good time. He's no longer with us now. He passed away from COVID last year.
I'm so sorry.
Thank you. And it was hard. My sister-in-law, though, Donna, I grew up around here. I used to babysit her. They fell in love with children, okay? Her mother was also a contactee and would see Talata coming down to get me, and then Donna would see it, and then I would see who was ever working with her coming down for her. We used to talk about it when we got older.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. When she had a brain tumor as well in the end of her life, and she told Donna 2 days, they've got my implant. They just came and took it. And she had an unbelievable contactee, long life as well. Okay, all kinds of adventures and stuff like that.
Dolly, just out of you tell me, what are the odds that your brother or your family member marries into a family that? Come on, what are the odds on that?
I know.
The ETs bring people together.
That is incredible.
That's not uncommon, actually.
Really?
ETs, yeah, they guide people together. They're very.
Yeah, I've heard of the familial thing, but not.
My brother had a very close-up UFO experience and ended up marrying a contactee. This is something that is somewhat
did he know
consistent.
that he was a contactee from before, or no?
No.
Wow.
I'm telling you, they guide people together for a reason. They're very interested in our genetics, you know, pulling out the best of what we've got in terms of psychic ability, health, longevity, you know, variation. They are bringing people together intentionally.
Right. And the weird thing about this situation is I stayed with her recently, well, the last month before the 1 year anniversary of his passing, and I hung out with her. She needed the company, you know, and
Okay.
Talana kept coming down. He kept
Well,
saying they kept sending the smaller craft, you know, and she got to see him. They came down and did a dance for her and did all kinds of things. Came way low for her, and
okay.
I actually now know that she's protected by them as well. She's got
Okay.
drones that are following her around and keep
But
an
let
eye.
me ask you something. As far as
Okay,
her, was she ever being taken or no? Or was she
she
just her
doesn't
mom?
think so. She
She
doesn't
doesn't
think
think so.
so.
Okay.
Just her
And the
mama.
reason why I'm asking this is makes you think why yes to some people and no to others. You understand? Like, have they ever
Yeah.
explained to you what is it that they, I don't know, look for or identify with or what?
Preston has a Preston has a big handle on that from his research, and I agree
Okay.
with it. So I'll let him
What
tell
is
you.
it, Preston? What have you come up with?
Well, I think they contact a lot more people than we realized because a lot of people choose not to remember or don't remember. That's one
Okay.
factor. I mean, it's really not nearly as uncommon as people think. But I was looking at who's being contacted and why because it's evenly divided between men and women. It's all
Okay.
over the world. It's got nothing to do with your ancestry necessarily, or blood
Mm-hmm.
type, or race, religion, politics, education. What I found were a few very prominent patterns. One is it does track families,
Okay.
and we have many cases where people have parents, grandparents, great grandparents, and children. So we're talking, multiple generations.
Okay.
That is a prominent pattern.
Okay.
Another is that they are very much attracted to people who have powerful psychic abilities.
Okay.
Uh, and as a general rule, people who are contactees have a wide variety of psychic events,
Okay.
and they will even wake this up in people. So it kind of goes both ways, but they're
Okay.
absolutely attracted to that. And
Okay.
another thing, the last pattern I found, which really surprised me actually, and I think is quite consistent, is that people who are being contacted are people who are doing good work for humanity in some level, in some capacity.
Okay.
Because I started running into an awful lot of social workers. Like Betty and Barney Hill were social workers. And
Oh my God.
and
No, he
I'm
was a postman, but she was a social worker. You're right. I hadn't thought of that.
yeah, and
But I know he was doing I know he was involved in the community though. You know.
exactly.
Yeah.
And environmentalists, animal rights activists, an awful lot of
Uh-huh.
doctors.
Yeah, yeah,
I
yeah,
mean,
yeah.
doctors, nurses. Dolly is a nurse, by the way.
There you go.
I'm also an
So
environmentalist and a
yeah,
Right,
speaker.
right, exactly. That there's an
Yeah,
awareness of what's
they
right.
love musicians, artists, writers, teachers, people who are trying to help others, people who are in
right.
service of humanity is very attractive to them because that is a big agenda for them.
Let me ask you something. Have they told you or have you seen, is there more than one type of extraterrestrials that are visiting us?
Yeah. Um, there are a few different types of grace. It's an ethnic thing.
Okay.
Um, uh, I'm gonna try to explain this. Humanity, us, we are
Uh-huh.
related to them. They are our progenitors. Our
Okay.
Okay, we come from them.
All right.
Several different ethnicities of them, actually. Um,
Okay.
Here on Earth, we have lots of ethnicities. We're all human. That's our
Mm-hmm.
race. Okay, but
Right.
we dime out genetically into different ethnicities. All
Yes.
ethnicity means is color, you know, ability to withstand heat or cold, things like that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Types of nails, types of hair, blah 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 blah. Okay, we're ethnic. The Greys are ethnic as well. I know of a few of them.
Mm-hmm.
They're grays that are very very short, and they're not so much gray as they look blue, and they kind of look like trolls, and they're sweet as pie. Okay, I mean
Okay.
adorable. Okay, and I think they developed the AI grays. I think they're responsible for them. I think they
Okay.
brought them into existence way way a long time ago. Um,
Okay.
I've met grays who are a little bit taller than the 3 foot AIs. They're about between 5 feet, 6 feet, somewhere around in there, mid size. Okay. Uh, the little AI grays have 3 fingers. Okay.
Okay.
And they use a type of apparatus on the tips of their fingers when they're doing fine work. Well, the mid-sized grays only have 3 fingers as well, and they use those little cuppy things on the ends of their fingers.
Okay.
That's them. Then there's the tall grays. They're very tall. Mama is 6'2". Okay. And I think
Okay.
she's short for them. Okay. And the males are way taller than her. And they have 4 fingers.
Okay.
And very distinct, and they're very elegant. They move elegantly. I don't know how. Whitley Strieber is aware of them. He's met them. He knows who I'm talking about. He's had lots of encounters with them. So that's the grays that I know of. Then there is like Vishnu, and they're blue. And a lot of
Okay.
people screw them up with what they call Palladians. They are not.
Mm-hmm.
They are not. They are an ancient race, and they're not really hanging around with us right now. Okay.
Okay.
Then I've met Anunnaki, and they actually have wings. You know,
All right.
they have wings.
Okay.
And I got to touch one once. I was on a big planet. You know, it's where I went to go learn and everything. And they had big conferences center on the planet itself. And I saw 2 or 3 of them, and I was young, and I'm not afraid of anything. And I ran up to him like a magnet.
Okay.
I want to touch you. And he
Okay.
did this, and he let me pet him, pet his wing. Okay. And I was just screaming. I was just like, oh, you know. So there's them. There's the Anunnaki. They're huge, by the way. This guy was 8 feet
Okay.
tall. Easy. Huge. Okay.
Okay.
Then they're what some people here refer to as the Nordics, the tall whites.
Right.
They're very old. They're the scientific nerdiest of them all. And
Okay.
they pretty much are watching our physical situation in the solar system. And they're on Earth a lot, and they're very standoffish. You don't mess with them. They have a very serious uh, societal construct, and it's
Uh-huh.
just a really good idea not to worry about talking to them too much. They're
Okay.
very protective of their young, and they live a long time. So there's them. Then there's the mantids. I've actually
Right.
only seen one in my entire life, and it freaked me out. I had to have a kidney transplant, and it was watching me. I was in the house alone. It was a bad galing winds that day. It was near Savannah, and I'm looking out the door, and I'm thinking, what the heck? And I had a little, it's way back when we had the flip phones, little Motorola's.
Uh-huh.
Terrible camera. And I tried to, zoom up on him, which laughable, and get pictures. And I took about 6. And then he stood up because he was crouching down there, big stump. I
When
just, I was like, I dropped my phone. I threw the door open, barefoot. It's cold. I'm wearing shorts, and I
okay.
hauled ass. I went right after him. Okay.
Blame you.
And
I'd be like,
he walked away. He didn't run or anything. He was that fast. And he
okay.
walked off into a big field and disappeared, and I couldn't keep up with him. I just had a transplant. Okay. Who could run
Okay.
after that after transplant? And
Sure.
I got one mental message from him, and he said, "We are the watchers. I'm watching over you." And it was a very loving message. Made me
Okay.
feel good all over my whole body. And I was like, oh. And I
Okay.
stood there, thinking about it hard. That's an excruciating wake-up call to anybody when you see them. Okay. It's like, oh my God. They're not like a real bug. Like you think of mantids here. They have
Right.
skin, they have arms and legs. They do hold their hands a certain way, but I could see appendages, He had
Okay.
hands.
Okay.
And he had he had really big bulgy eyes. He did have that. And this
Like,
long, his face came to a kind of a point, but he had lips and he could move them. Okay. I could see him working his mouth. I think it was, I don't know if he was trying to talk or whatever, but he was moving his mouth.
Are
He
there
was wearing
any
an
that
outfit.
you would, and I'm not going to say that, how can I tell you this? Because you hear reports that there's some that are friendly towards us, others that are, and I don't want to say unfriendly, but that see us more as You know, when
Food.
when you're studying something that you're really like, they might be intrusive.
Yeah, I met one thing out in the Glades. I used to go out to the where the Indian burial mounds out in the Glades, Miccosukee
Yes.
Indian. Okay,
Yes.
and it's more that's the Seminoles and the way back. Okay,
Right.
so I was on this one mound an entire day and a half, and I had to canoe to it because you know how it is.
Yes.
Um, anyway, so I was packing up. I was packing down my camp, and I was getting ready to leave, and I felt the hair go up on the back of my neck. You know, you get that somebody's watching me, and I turned
Yeah.
around. You know, I turned to my right, and over my right shoulder, about 20 feet behind me, is a being I've never. Big guy, and I call them lizard people. I did not know y'all call them what reptilians. I did
Yeah.
not know you called them anything. And the only thing he had on his mind was I was lunch. Okay. I didn't hesitate. I didn't wait. I dropped everything and ran like a banshee for the water, grabbed my canoe. I didn't even get in my canoe. I got out of there as fast as I could, paddling for my life. I
Okay.
didn't go back for a whole month. I was terrified of him. This terrified me. Okay. This
Okay.
was no, not playing with you. I've gone over and over and over and over. I was a teenager when this happened.
Okay.
I've heard stories since then. I've heard people talking about it. There's two schools of thought, blah, blah. From what I've understand about our history and our solar system and everything, I really believe that they're from here. I think they are the original residents of this planet, along with dinosaurs.
Really?
Yeah,
Okay.
I think they're from here. And I think
Well,
that,
you know what's really incredible is that, now with DNA, that the genome and stuff,
yeah,
they're realizing that hominids, and that basically, contrary to what they thought, modern man or, whatever original, interbred with all these different versions of hominids, including Neanderthals. As a matter of fact,
right.
when I did my pie chart, I'm 3% Neanderthal. Who
Oh,
would know?
wow.
Because
That's
remember, at
cool.
one point,
Yeah,
they always thought that none of these, in other words, they've realized that what makes up modern humans as of now
yes.
is a lot of different sources. Many of them, of course,
It's
died
the
out.
it's the human genome.
Right, but they
Human.
thought that none of these different groups of hominids ever interbred.
Of course
Genetically,
they
they
did.
thought, no, they didn't.
Yeah.
Even Neanderthals, they said, even though they overlapped in time, which goes to show that really, they're not really sure exactly what we're made up of.
We're made
Exactly.
up of a lot of stuff. You realize
Yeah.
that the ETs are our progenitors. I've said that before. I'm going to
Uh-huh.
say it again. Our entire universe, the template is in your body, in your DNA. Every
Okay.
living thing, every biological thing has DNA. Animals, bugs, fish, dolphins, whales, octopus, birds, all of it. We all have DNA. And we're actually very closely related to one another. Our DNA resembles
Right.
quite literally, phantasmagorically, yes.
Let
ETs
me
have
ask you
the same
something,
DNA.
Preston,
Okay.
because you mentioned it earlier that their interest in us, the extraterrestrial, is because of genetics.
Yeah, partly. I mean, this speaks to the book, the title of the book,
Uh-huh.
which Dolly actually chose the title. I asked her, do you have any titles in mind? I was really hoping to call it Dolly Among the Stars because it is a true adventure,
Okay.
which we ended up using for one of the chapters. But she says, I'd really like to call it Symmetry. I thought,
Okay.
wow, that is an intriguing word. And I started thinking about what it meant. And I'm like, why? And this turned out to be one of the big lessons she had learned from her studies with the ETs, that there is a symmetry to life throughout the universe. And Dolly
Okay.
says, we are you, you are us. I can't tell
We're
you how
all
many
one.
times I've heard that, from other contactees,
Okay.
and pretty much without exception, when someone says they see an ET, it is humanoid. It's human in form, and we're talking about people seeing half human, half gray hybrids,
Mm-hmm.
which speaks to, again, their relationship to us and how close we are to them. So it is all about genetics.
I like the fact that you used the word bipedal. We are all bipedal. You realize that, right?
Right.
Okay. That just
Let me
explains that
ask you
we're
something.
walking
Is
on.
there any truth that sometimes you hear that they're interested in us not for genetics, but because they lack some of it? Is there any truth to that?
No, no. Um, when you're a spacefaring race of people, you spend a lot of time outside of a protected magnetosphere on your planet. You take on a lot of gamma radiation, and the
Okay.
eons that they've been doing this has affected their DNA and degraded it somewhat. And they are constantly battling that issue. That's why they have little AI grays to protect them from being out in space too much. When I go off with
Okay.
Talata, we do not stay in space. We go where we're going and we get the heck down into a planet's magnetosphere. We don't spend the But I'm telling you, every time even I go out in space, I become radioactive because I'm taking on heavy counts of gamma radiation. When you fly in a jet, you're taking on heavy counts of gamma. You realize that, right?
No, I did not know that. I
Yes.
did. I
Yeah. Our own astronauts understand that. They found out very fast, and they proved that. You know, the two astronauts who are identical twins. Well,
yes.
they deliberately kept one on the ground and they put one up for just over a year. And when he came back, they realized without beyond the shadow of a doubt, there's no doubt in anybody's mind anymore. It derazzes your DNA. It degrades it. Okay. And
Wow.
all this time his DNA's been trying to come back up, but he no longer matched his brother genetically when he hit the ground.
Isn't
And
that
that,
interesting?
yeah. And
What a great way to compare it against an identical twin.
right. It de-evolves your body somewhat, you know. We're having problems because our magnetosphere is down. For the last 80
Yes, I
years, it
know that.
started
I
going
know
down.
that. I
And
know it's been
everybody
changing
asks
too
themselves,
rapidly.
why do we have so much cancer? What's with the autoimmune disorders? Why are we having so much mental issues? Why are people breaking down with all these different kinds of cancers? And quite frankly, it's the gamma hitting us. That's why. And if
Right.
you want to know why ET makes contact with everybody on this planet, they're watching it happen to us and they're trying to help us not suffer from it. They are helping us by repairing us, healing us. They do all kinds of things for us all the time. They're keeping us going, you know.
Right.
They're also breeding back with us with the hybrid program to strengthen their DNA back up because believe me, they've taken some terrible hits from
Let
gamma.
me ask you
And
something. And I don't know if you're aware, because
yeah,
you always think of space travel as in light years, but then you hear about the theory of intradimensional um travel. Is that how they're doing it, or how
yes,
are
yes.
okay?
Um, I know you don't see this because you're in a gravity heavy world, the
Yes.
physical world that we all dwell on, and it's throughout our universe, by the way. It's not just here. Our entire
Okay.
universe is a physical construct. It's a mainframe for us to
Okay.
dwell in. Okay. At this uh, level of, you know, dimension, we're in the lower dimensions here. Okay. There's a
Okay.
dimension above us that still has gravity and uh, time, you know, a timeline.
Okay.
Everything above the fifth dimension is lost all that. You go outside space time, past the fifth
Okay.
dimension. Okay, so you don't realize this because there's so much going on in your lifetime and everybody's that you don't see it, but you're a being of light. Just because you're gravity heavy and you feel dense and heavy doesn't
Yes.
mean that you're actually made out of light. You have the energy of light. That's how you were made. That's how your DNA formed. You're an electromagnetic being of light. And so, yes, they travel interdimensionally. They
Okay.
create an opening in in a dimensional wall. It's light. It's a light
Okay.
wall. They open that door and they go through it. They've already decided where they're going. They know
Okay.
how to mentally make that happen, and they go through that door, and they're parsecs across the universe when they do it instantly. They can go instantly anywhere they want to go by using that
Right.
light doorway.
Okay.
Because when you go into an interdimensional field, you become interdimensional as well. You lose all your solidity and you're able to pass through it very rapidly. So yeah.
Right. And so how did you and Preston get together for the story for was it coincidence or how did that because nowadays I'm thinking, did the ETs guide them to meet or
Yeah, kind of.
But
About
very psychic, Marlene. Yeah, that's exactly what happened.
but
yeah?
yeah, 7 8 years ago I decided that I'm coming out. Okay. I know what my
Okay.
mission is. I'm well aware of everything that's going on. And I just couldn't sit still for it anymore. I can't. I'm human as you are. I'm a hybrid human, but I'm human. This is my home. I was
Right.
born here, okay? And I'm very, very much in love with all of us. Okay. I'm in love
Okay.
with ET too, but we matter too. Okay. And I sat down with them and said, okay, I'm going to do this. What do I do? Am I allowed to?
I was
Okay.
gonna say, didn't they say no, 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 wait, whoa, whoa, slow down, Dolly, you can't do
Everybody
that.
stared at me really hard. I mean, they all just sat back and were just like, And I was debriefed about it. I was told what was going to happen. In other words, what I
Okay.
could expect, how people were going to react to me, what I
Okay.
faced danger wise, that kind of thing. The
Okay.
world's, the people who run this joint aren't happy about it at all.
Okay.
And then I started, well, now what do I do? And it was suggested to me that I find somebody to tell my story to. And
Okay.
I went out and I started looking around for researchers, and I was very unhappy with who I was running into. I was disappointed. I was like, no, because I was raised to only tell the truth. ET does
Okay.
not lie, ever. They're
Okay.
incapable of it. When you're full, wide open psychic, you hear everything. You hear the lie, okay? And they
Okay.
won't tolerate it. And I'm getting more and more and more disappointed. I'm spending a year doing this, twiddling my thumbs, thinking, and Talata finally one day says, you know what? I want you to check this guy out. And I said, who? He said, Preston Dennett, and he's on
Are
YouTube.
you kidding me? Oh, see, I was right.
Aha, you were. They said his name, and I'm like, okay, he's on YouTube, okay? So I went out on YouTube and I put in the search bar Preston Dennett.
Okay.
There he was. I found one of his first videos. He was doing a MUFON symposium or something like that. He was talking about healing. He was way
Okay.
younger than he is now. And he caught my eye. Okay, I have to tell you that. He was like a little cutie, and I was like, okay, hi, Candy. And I start listening to him, and I realized, oh my God, he knows what he's doing. He tells the truth.
Okay.
He's very into facts and order of things, and he doesn't make up stories about people. He's very good at, what's the word? Keeping to the narrative of what everybody's saying. Okay, and he
Okay.
researches like crazy. You can tell he does his homework.
Okay.
And I said, okay. So at the bottom of the video, I see his email, Preston
Okay.
UFO.bell or something like that. Okay. And so I emailed him and I said, I'm interested in talking to you about my story. And would you talk to me? Can we have a conversation? And he said, sure. I mean, within an hour, he was emailing me back. I was like, wow, this is kind of cool. And I gave him my phone number, and he called me, I guess, 2 days later, and it was on from there. This was about 6.5 years ago, 7 years ago. It'll be 7 years ago in this end of July. Yeah.
So wow.
Yeah.
Yeah, how's
And
that?
okay,
Man.
so in other words, I see he passed the litmus test because I'm sure that you were like when you started, you were like, I'm ready to be disappointed again.
I was.
And
Absolutely.
then
And it was shocked. I was
okay.
very shocked.
Isn't that interesting?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because you were like, and let me ask you, have there been periods of time where they haven't contacted you at all and then they come back, or is it always been on a steady pace?
Up until about 3 months ago, it was a steady pace. They've bugged out right now. They are no longer on this planet. They're not in our solar system at all. They had to bug out. The entire solar system is changing its magnetic polarity, and Earth's is so bad they can't fly here right now, and they've bugged out. It's too dangerous for them. They're out of our system. They do
Really?
talk to me psychically. I can remote view them and OBE them. But stuff's happening because Talata has gone dead silent on me a couple of times in the last few weeks. And then when he comes
Okay.
back, it's saying it's getting busy, it's getting hot. And I'm like, okay, you know. Now, if I
Okay.
want somebody right now, oh, trust me, Mama will get on with me instantly. She'll come on board and
Okay.
remote me, because I'll cry for her and she'll show up. But no, they're not physically with us right now. So I'm a little out of my,
Let me ask you something,
you know.
Dolly. During all these years, even though it sounds like they were helping you and guiding you, do they also believe like in free will? In other words,
Absolutely. They're autonomous beings and they believe in our autonomy. They are our
all right.
progenitors. They put us here, okay? They brought us here. But we have free will and we have the ability to make our own decisions about our own lives. We all have karma. That is a
Right.
constant in the universe. Okay,
Right.
karma is real, dead up real. That's why they're not rescuing every stupid thing we do. We
Well,
have to
and
learn this
you
for
know, the
ourselves.
reason why I brought that up is because some people think that ET, contact with an ET is like they become like they don't let anything bad happen to you. You're safe from responsibility
No,
from
no.
doing stupid stuff. Hello. And and I'm
Yeah,
thinking, well, you know what? That kind of defeats the purpose of being alive because
that's my
really,
most important lessons at first with them when I was very young was morality, um,
yeah.
uh, um, ethics, you know,
Hmm.
contact in that with one another, psychic ability training, that kind of thing. Because we are not, we are all of us, each individual person is responsible for what you say, do, feel, think, act, all of
Sure.
it. You can't blame anybody but yourself for your own stuff. Okay.
Yeah.
We affect one another. We are each other. We are supposed to help each other. We're supposed to be available to one another and we're supposed to love one another.
Sure.
This
I agree.
particular realm that we're in, this world, this system, is kind of screwed up right now. I
Yeah.
mean, there's a lot of, and here's the reality of it. Okay, you're an eternal being. You've been around for a long time. You've lived multiple lifetimes in multiple universes,
Hmm.
universes, plural. This universe is this one.
Right.
There are others, okay? But our universe has 12 dimensions, and this is our construct, and this is where we are right now. Okay. You're responsible for your own wisdom,
Yes.
your own learning, your own learning the truth, accepting or denying everything. Okay. That's what autonomy is. You are doing for yourself what you need to do. Because everything, the reason you're here, what karma is you're here to experience that which you cannot experience in source. And where that experience is wisdom, to get smarter, to raise how you think.
Right. Well, I,
Um,
I I think of it as that life is supposed to be messy because
right.
that's
That's
how
how we
you
learn.
experience. You make
Right.
mistakes, you learn.
Yeah. There's
Some
no
people
guarantee
don't
it
want
isn't going to
to,
hurt. Right. There's
they
no
want everything to
guarantee
be
that you're going to be
very
happy.
planned.
Right. Right.
How about you, Preston? After you met Dolly and you guys are talking and she's telling you, did did you ever have any weird experiences? Were they coming to check out on you and make sure is he is he really the right person for this?
Yeah, I became a participant to a
Okay.
certain extent in Dolly's own adventures, and I will
Okay.
say that I have been having sightings myself with
Okay.
some telepathic communication.
Okay.
Not just one sighting. I mean, like a dozen. Some very
Okay.
close up. I did have a missing time incident,
Really?
uh, and Dolly. We've done a lot of interviews.
Mhm.
100 hours easily, and so it was a lot of fun because Dolly is psychic,
Okay.
and it was. I learned that early on, um,
Okay.
and I myself have had a lot of psychic experiences,
All right.
particularly out of body experiences, which I got really good at actually.
Okay.
And so one day, just on a whim, I popped over to Dolly's house. I thought, maybe because I've done this. This is something I'm really good at. And
Okay.
I would go to people's houses, and then they can never ever see me. I'm like, well, I don't know. Sometimes I think I'm like just crazy. This could be
Okay.
dreams. I know it's not, but it's frustrating.
Uh-huh.
And so one day, I just popped over to Dolly's house, looking for her, and there she was. And this is like the middle of the night, certainly for her, because she's on the East Coast and I'm here on the West Coast. And she turns around and looks straight at me,
Oh.
and she's on the phone,
I
and
love it.
I can see her eyes go wide, and she's looking at me,
It's
and
like, "Preston, what are you
I'm like,
doing here?"
wow, and she says,
That's like,
Preston,
oh, that's
I
so
can't talk now. I'm being robbed.
You thought
And
I
I'm like,
said that, yeah.
yeah, that's what I thought she
for a
said.
minute, I was like, "What?" And
And which freaked me out, of course, and then pulled me right back into my body. And I wake up the next day, and we're talking daily at this point.
uh-huh.
And she calls me up, and we start talking. I'm like, well, she's not bringing up being robbed. This is something she
Okay.
would definitely mention first thing.
I bet.
But then she says, "You came to me last night. I saw you." I'm like, "You did, because I saw you see me, and you said
That
something to me. What did you say?" I want to know because I want to verify, facts, facts, facts. And she says, well, yeah, I was on the phone and I saw you and I said, I can't talk now. I'm on the phone with Rob. I'm like, oh, Rob. Okay, I misunderstood.
That's great.
So, and we met at the convention, at a UFO convention last year,
Uh-huh.
and Talata came down.
Wow.
So I've gotten to, and I'm starting to have more memories of being, on craft, I guess. Memories, well, dreams, I'll call them dreams, but I kind of know they're not.
Okay.
I'm kind of remembering the stuff in the dream state. I'm starting to she's helping me with my own issues with trying to remember and deal with this.
Right.
So yeah, absolutely. There's a connection there.
Let me ask you something, Dolly. You mentioned earlier that you were a nurse.
Yes.
When you were nursing, did you ever feel or see any ET presence that was with a patient? I guess is what I'm asking.
I worked in an ER, and it's
Oh,
busy.
yes.
I see entities all the time. I see, like what you would call a ghost, stuff like that.
Right. Okay.
I do see ETs walking around every now and then. As I stated, they do OBE. And when they
Okay.
do, I see them. I can communicate with them. I've seen all different kinds of entities OBE, not just nursing, but in my
Okay.
everyday life.
Okay.
Yes. So, yes.
And I didn't know you
I
did
have
emergency.
seen them actually come, and we had a patient. This one was traumatic for me because it was a patient who was going to die. We knew it,
Okay.
and they were there for him. And
Okay.
when he left, they walked him. Are we still there?
Yeah, I'm here.
Oh no! What the hell is that?
Oh, the hell
Your
am I
camera
doing?
froze. But
Yeah,
yeah,
but anyway, go ahead.
yeah, the
Go
ETs
ahead.
are all about healing. They really are. And Dolly has been healed herself on more than one occasion. And it's kind of her job when she's on board, when she's
Right.
not flying the craft, because they scoop people up and give them checkups.
Well,
And
the reason why I asked her is that I was thinking, do they, let's say somebody like her that they've been with them, all through their lives. And now this person, I didn't know she was in the emergency room, but they're either in the hospital for something that do they come and say, okay, we need to check on this person that we've been with all this time.
oh
And I'm
yeah,
thinking that she oh, here's somebody that's checking in on this patient because that's their connection between that ET and this person. But she's gonna
right. Dolly's calling me right now, actually. I think she got bumped out. Dolly, are
she
you
can come
there?
back in.
Oh, all right. I think we're going to be on another half hour or so.
Tell her if she's that she.
All right, you're trying to get back in. Got it.
Okay,
All right.
we'll bring her back
Yeah.
in.
Yeah.
What happened? Her connection dropped.
Yeah, her computer did something, kicked her out. It's trying to reboot.
Yeah. See, I'm telling you,
But
there was
yeah,
something about that question. I'm just
hey, I'm not going to discount it. Weird stuff happens.
Yeah, I know. That's what I was gonna say. I know people say what, and it's like, hey, it's like of all the things, it's like, what were you talking about at the moment that thing went south? Yeah.
Yeah, but
So
I would just reiterate that healing is a major primary ET agenda. I did actually write a book called The Healing Power of UFOs, which documents some 300 cases.
okay.
And Dolly was healed of, she hurt her knee really bad once, and she just
Okay, here
couldn't
we
take
go.
it. And
All right, Dolly, come on and put on your because I'm seeing you. You can start your cam.
Okay, I'm hoping it starts. Hang on a second. You're in the show. Okay. Well, hang on a second. Let's see why it's being so fruitless.
Give it a second. I'm sure it'll come back on. That's what it usually does.
Okay.
But yeah, Dolly has been present on board when other people have been healed as well.
Okay.
So this
So
is something, you know, as a nurse, she's often there to like help people through their onboard experience, because as a, you know, general rule, people live in fear.
sure.
And this is a big part of, you know, what we need to overcome, is learning how to overcome fear. This is
Okay,
what's
I'm gonna
blocking
try one
people.
more time. I'll be right
Go ahead.
back.
Go ahead.
This is what's blocking people from having fully conscious experiences. This is what causes them to view their experience, you know, through the lens of fear and think this is bad for me. It's not. They are trying to
Well,
check up on you.
I think there's
Or
also that big fear of the unknown, like people, it's like, yeah, especially if you're one of these people that wants to live in this very that you know what to expect. Okay, let's see. Let's cross our fingers on this and see what we can get. All right. All right, Dolly, you're in. Go ahead and see if we can get your cam going.
Okay. Oh,
yeah, there's nothing like a UFO experience to sort of shatter your worldview.
Well, exactly. Because see, one thing is that you see it on the movies or on the TV shows, and you kind of, you know, I've read about it, but that's quite different from an
Yeah,
actual acceptance of that experience. Because then I think for a lot of people, it'll be like, well, if this is possible, what else that I've relegated to the never land of possibilities is possible? If this is extraterrestrial contact, all of that, they don't even want to go there. Like their mind is like,
yeah.
I'm having a hard time. It's
you know
doing to me
what?
what
Don't
it
worry
did to
about
you.
it, Dolly. If anything, you can just talk. Talk. We can hear you.
Okay, no problem.
Anyway, we were talking about that, you know, had asked you and about the nursing and the ETs, and Preston was explaining about also incidents of healing that
Yes.
you yourself have experienced.
Oh yeah, quite a few. I've bashed my knee really bad. I mean,
Okay.
broke it bad, and
Oh, you broke
had an
it?
ACL tear in it that was going to lay me out in lavender. I used to be a swimmer as well.
Okay.
You know, I love to swim, and they had something to do with helping me facilitate that as a perfect repair. You know, I have perfect 100% use of my knee now because of
Oh,
that.
you're back. Great.
Yeah. Hi.
You know
Yeah.
what? And I know last year it was a minor. I twisted my knee a little bit. I stepped in a mud puddle and I did one of those, you know, where you try to not to like fall. And I did,
Yes.
and that is very painful. It took months for me to like
Yes.
to be able to
I
put
know.
weight on it. And I look like Quasimodo, like dragging my foot behind me, you know, because I couldn't like put weight on it. And it
It
was
had me in a hip
definitely
cast. It went all the way up to the top of my hip and all the way down to
oh,
my ankle, and I couldn't bend my leg at all. And it was one of those, you remember those old casts, and it
mhm.
started itching and it drove me insane. And I jumped in the tub and soaked it right off my leg. And I did it twice. He kept putting it back on. I kept saying, "I'm only going to take it off. It won't last." And so he found me one of the very first Velcro casts. You know, it's like a hard plastic with Velcro on it. And he finally said, "Will you live with this?" And I'm like, "Yeah, I can take it back now." Okay. So
Okay.
so I wore that. I was in a cast for
Yes,
like
I
8
know
weeks.
knee
Yeah,
injuries are they're
horrific.
so
They hurt.
here you said, oh, absolutely. Believe me, I know. Let me ask you, you mentioned something that everybody has kind of like, did they ever tell you if, when, or how they would decide to come back?
Yes.
Or is
Yeah.
that like unknown?
No, it's part of my mission actually. When I said I wanted to
Okay.
learn to fly, I didn't know what I was getting into, and then I found out. Um,
Okay.
our solar system is not a happy camper right now. We're uh, changing our poles. They're an excursion. Our magnetosphere is down. Our sun is in maximum, solar maximum, and it's
Hmm.
throwing some pretty potent CMEs out right now, coronal mass ejections.
Right.
If we have an X class, which they are predicting we will, we're done for here. It will send us all back to the Stone Age. I don't know if you
Okay.
know what the Carrington event is. You might want to look it up. This is
Okay.
coming. And when we go back to the Stone Age, lots going to be happening. There's going to be hunger, Houses
Yeah.
are going to be burning to the ground because every wire on the planet's going to burn.
Mhm.
It's just crazy stuff. The irony of this is that our governments know about it all over the world. They've
Right.
been
I've
planning for
heard
it.
of that. I've heard of different versions of that
Yeah,
happening,
yeah.
and how we're so dependent on technology that we've lost all our ability to survive
Survive. Yeah. Well, the
with.
government thinks they're going underground. Okay, they have built everything that they need. It's all ready. They're stocking it now. That's why there's a world food shortage. They, I guess they've got it to where they want it. Now they're going to start doing things to us. This is the 1% that want to survive, and they don't
Mhm.
care about us. And they're going to make it very hard for us to survive all this. And ET cannot be here for the CME. They cannot. They cannot be anywhere near our solar system. It will take them out as well. They are electromagnetically oriented. They use graviton wave technology, and it will destroy them. It can't be here. So the plan is this: once that CME hits us and it knocks us out,
Right.
you've got about a year and a half, year and a half to
Mhm.
survive until they come back. By the way, when that CME hits, every satellite in the sky is coming down. They so
All
already know
all
about it.
of the hundreds of junk that's orbiting around the Earth, you mean?
Oh, going to come down. Do you know that they're going to bring the ISS down before it happens? They're going to bring it into a controlled descent so they can drop
Mhm.
it in the deepest part of the ocean so it doesn't hit them or any of their stuff. Okay, which it could if it's
Right,
uncontrolled.
exactly. Yeah, that's what
Uh,
happens when one of these,
it's on the NASA
satellites.
website. Go look at it. Look up Google keyword in at the NASA site ISS, the end of
Oh,
ISS, and it will show you that they're bringing it down. They're lying about it, but yeah, okay. Why they're going to bring it down? Um, so you have to survive all that. Once that happens and it's clear enough for them to come down, every ET craft that you could possibly imagine will hit the planet worldwide. Every runway, every street, every airport, every parking lot, everywhere we got a place to put her down, we're coming. We will open the doors. You will already psychically know we're coming because you will be told.
let
They
me
will
tell you
send a
about.
message. Get
I don't
ready.
even know how many satellites are orbiting, how much junk we've got orbiting the Earth right.
Oh
It's
yeah, if you
it's
pull up a map, it's like crazy. The Earth looks black. I mean, it's covered like
yeah.
anthill.
There's a big, huge neural net up there. Yeah, there's a lot. You know, sadly, and but that's what's going to happen. I don't want to talk about this in a negative light. Okay, for two reasons. First off, is that you're an eternal being. Whether you survive this or not doesn't matter because you're still going to be alive and you're still going to go on. You'll recycle. You will become, your karma will take you somewhere else and you will be reborn somewhere else to finish out your karma. There is
But
no
most people though
death.
have an instinct of self-preservation that you don't.
Well, you've been taught to. That's one of the
The
main things that
logic
they've
of
been
it.
going after you for here. They make your life more important than anything else. They want you to live a perfect, cushy, oh,
Yeah,
they're petting everybody. It's okay. They're talking about,
yeah, yes,
it's
yes,
ridiculous.
yes.
Okay. They
It's
don't
all
tell you the truth.
it's ultimately
Well,
really good news because the pathway we're on with the greed and the corruption and the divisiveness and the wars.
Yeah.
This has got to stop. It's not sustainable.
Right.
I think that, um, and I hate to say it, but who was the other day that I was talking to? And I remember once upon a time, maybe a two, three, four generations back, three, people were, I don't know, I don't want to say they were more, hardy is not the word for it, but people were more self,
Well, your DNA wasn't being effed up. Okay. So
maybe
that's
that's it.
number one.
People were more
You were
independent,
more
more.
psychic then too. Your pineal gland wasn't being killed.
Right.
Oh,
The people were like,
yeah.
they thought of solutions hands on without
Right.
technology, in other words, to
Correct.
come and save the day.
I want to give you
Um,
ET's message, okay? I think it's time. I want to get this in before you have to
Go
go,
ahead.
okay?
Absolutely. Yes. Go.
ET's main message to everybody on this planet is to wake up. You have an innate ability to be psychic as they are. You have an
Okay.
innate ability to use the same abilities they already have, like levitation, like psychometry, like precog, all of it. You have those abilities. You are
Okay.
a powerful, sentient, eternal being. You've been denied that in this lifetime, this last 80 years. You've been punched, kicked, poisoned, you name it, for your pineal gland to die. The number one thing that'll hit you hard, pineal gland wise, is uh, fluoride. Fluoride
Yeah,
carbons
the
you up and
fluoride
it's
for the
bad.
pineal gland.
Okay, stop it. Detox, clear your mind, meditate every day. Start learning to use your psychic ability. I'm going to give you the very first that I believe is a good tool. Okay.
Go ahead.
Everybody write this down. Everybody get on it. Use it every day. It is uh, Russell Targ worked for the government, but he was unbelievably psychic and he knew how to make this work. It's a game. You can download it on your iPhone or your Apple or your PC. And it is called Psychic Trainer.
Okay.
Use it every day. Practice. Meditate twice a day, every day. Start developing your own ability. And please, in the name of God, get away from all the negative. Turn off your TV. Get away from
Yes.
all the bad stuff. Leave it alone. Drink fresh, clean water, pure water, whatever. Do whatever it takes to cleanse yourself, mind, body, and soul, and get it all working again. Because you are sent, you are capable of all of this. If you want to hear ET before they come down, because they're going to send a mental message to everybody, and if you hear it, you'll know to go with them. Okay, if you don't hear it, you won't, and there will be no communication devices then. The only way you're going to hear them is
Right.
psychically. Okay, please, please, I implore everybody within the sound of my voice, please start waking up and realize two things: you are being lied to. You were treated like a slave. Get off the slave train. Take care of yourself and learn to hear the truth for yourself. Educate yourself as much as you can. Learn as much as you can.
Of course, I had put it on
Yeah.
silent, but
Now, of course, yeah.
no, but I
Just
have
put
a
the
bypass for
exclamation
one of
point
my
on it.
kids who
Yeah.
are adults, but
Right.
still, you know what
Right.
I'm talking about?
Yes. Yes. But yeah, but that's their main message. They want us to catch up with them. We are their children, and we were supposed to be catching up with them. We were supposed to be way more advanced than we are now. And we've been held back on purpose because of
Right.
evil
Well, I think
ideas.
I don't want to put down technology. Don't get me wrong. I know technology has brought a lot of comfort. I get it, but I think it's been a double-edged sword, and it makes us feel like we are advancing the
Right?
technology. But I
But you're
understand
not.
exactly what you mean. In reality,
Technology is trying to do mechanically what they do innately. They have that power
exactly,
on their own. Yeah.
and it's like, you know what? We become too dependent on it, and if that's not there, then we're like, oh my God, what do I can't function,
I
I'm going to give you a
Yeah.
perfect example, and I'm sure Dolly's going to understand this. When I grew up, all right, we only had air conditioning in our bedrooms that we would turn on at night.
we didn't have
At
any. Yeah.
night,
Right. Yeah.
okay? The rest of the time, we had a fan on at the
Right.
door. And you
Right.
know what? And when I went to school, I went to Immaculate Conception
Oh,
in Hialeah.
right.
They
Yeah.
didn't have air conditioning in the
No,
classrooms.
that
They
is
just had the
Southwest.
tall windows,
Right.
and
Right.
you know those the schools designed in South Florida that were open air, open hallways, so that they
Right.
would let.
That's what we had. Yeah.
You know what? I never died. I never felt, oh my God, I can't take the heat. I did it. It was perfect. I was fine. Now I'm a wimp. If there's no air conditioning, I'm like,
Right.
oh my
Yeah.
God, the air. I need to get into the AC. I grew up all
Yeah.
my life. And then at
Practice going
night,
off
we
grid
would
because you're
turn on
going to
the
need to.
AC, a
Yeah.
wall unit,
Yeah.
a window unit at
Yeah.
night to go to
I'm
sleep. And
gonna
the rest of the time, it was fine.
I'm gonna give you a little hope. Okay.
Yeah.
Our planet has been reacting to this excursion, and the sun is bombarding us with gamma radiation. Our poles are not melting because of quote unquote greenhouse gases. Okay. Global warming is not a problem. It is not the problem. What is the problem is this core of our planet is heated up. The magma is hot, very hot, hotter than usual. And we're breaking free of our mantle. And there's a lot of friction going on. There's a lot of all kinds of stupid things are going to happen to this planet. Okay.
Okay.
Um, but the poles melted, and that's kind of good news. You want to know why? Because all that fresh water melt went straight into the Atlantic and every other ocean on this planet that it could get to. It stopped the hot engine because it's the evaporation and the movement of hot water through our seas that makes the temperature change. I'll give you, for instance, El Nino and La Nina. Those two operate the heat
Okay.
in the northern United States and the southern, all around in the Pacific as well. That engine's been shut off, and you're going to start to see it getting colder and colder and colder, because guess what? We are headed for another ice age. Luckily, it won't be hitting when you leave, but when we leave, but it's coming. It will happen. So don't worry about it. You're not going to be hot anymore. Promise. You know,
People don't realize,
that
people, when they
lie.
think of an ice age, they think long term. All you need is a couple of years or 3 years of an ice age as far as food production is concerned.
And it'll wipe
And the
itself out.
effects
Yeah.
are horrible. It doesn't have
Right.
to be an age, as in,
Yeah.
an era
Yeah.
for it to be
Well, the
devastating.
timeline for this is that seam is going to hit within about 2 years. Okay, maybe 2.5 on the outside. I was saying 3 last year, now we're down to 2. Okay. And so it's not long. And then you've got the world governments are deliberately messing with people. They're deliberately starting a war. They're deliberately taking away our food sources. They're deliberately doing all kinds of stupid things. Please ask yourself why. See the truth of that. Why would they do that? Why? Because you're a problem when that CME hits. Because we all can figure out where they are, and we're going to be fighting them for it. They do not want the competition.
Let me
Understand?
tell you something. That's very interesting, Dolly. Because that when it comes down to everybody is like, they want to survive, and
we're going to go back to barbarianism. It's survival of the fittest, point blank. Literally.
I hate to say about it, warlords, because that's basically what it devolves into.
Yeah. Well, I guarantee you that a lot of people like me who already know this have known it for some time. You know what a prepper is? They're not stupid. And they have the ability to defend themselves. Yes. Stay away from them. They will end you. Okay? Without thinking about it.
I think that, how can I tell you? And I don't know if it's because, again, I grew up in South Florida, we have hurricanes and stuff like that.
Right.
So I understand what it is that you have to be self-sufficient. You understand what I'm saying?
Yes, exactly. Was raised the same way. Yep.
Even though I think a lot of people, like I said, because we've been put into this mindset of being, we've lost that ability to think, I got to take care of myself, and I got to not only, how can I tell you, on all levels, spiritually, mentally, physically, it's like a combo package. And we've kind of thrown that out the window.
Yeah. See, I knew if I was talking to a Floridian, this would come up. Thank you. Because we were raised this way. All of us in Florida. We know. We're tough noodles because of that, okay? I mean, we know what happens when you don't have water. We know what happens when you don't have electricity. We know. We're not stupid. We've been there, done that, got the t-shirt multiple times.
Yeah.
We know how to survive.
Yeah. I mean, we had, even though it was in Hialeah, they had city water. My grandparents put in a well. They would use it for their lawn. But bottom line, they had a well.
Out in the Glades, we only had sulfur water. We were near the sulfur spring.
Yeah.
And I had to learn to survive on sulfur water. I was like,
water is water.
It was good. Yeah.
And, an AM transistor radio, and you're good to go with battery operated.
Now they have hand crank ones. I'm going to start putting out stuff to teach you how to make a Faraday cage for your stuff. Some things you might be able to save. Maybe. It just depends. It's not guaranteed. But there's ways of covering your things and burying them a certain way.
Yeah, I've heard that.
You create a cradle. Yeah. And but I don't know if it's going to work or not. It just depends on how bad that CME is. Literally.
You know what? When I think of that, you know what movie I think about? Because unfortunately, we relate to Hollywood. That War of the Worlds, the modern one, the one with Tom Cruise.
Yeah.
The only car that gets saved is the one because of everything is basically cooked.
Yeah, I will tell you this. There's a website that you can go on. It's NOAA has one. Just Google the daily sun. What's going on with the sun, and it'll show you several.
Yes, I know which one you're talking about. That it shows you the flares, and it shows
It'll warn you when a bad one's coming. It'll tell you, okay, look, just pay attention to it. Bring it up on your computer or whatever, and pay attention.
Yes,
You
I
know?
know which
Yeah,
one you're
and
talking
it's
about.
just basic common sense to, have enough water for a month. Have
Yeah.
enough food for
Yes.
several
Yeah.
months. It's not
Right.
that
Yes.
hard to do, even if you have to
Right.
get it a little bit at a time. Garden, even if you're in
Oh,
an
yes.
apartment,
Right.
there are
Yeah.
windows.
Chickens.
You know,
Yeah.
Yay.
I
Marlene,
know.
Marlene has,
I
I,
might drive down and meet you and get some chickens from you. I'm
let me
not
tell you
kidding you.
something.
That
I
day is
tease my
coming.
husband all the time.
Okay. Yeah.
I go, pretty soon you're going to have to sleep outside with a shotgun. And he's looking at me like, because these chickens are going to be like gold.
Yep.
And
They will. I know.
I mean,
And you
he's looking
can't
at
tell
me
them to
like,
shut
all
up. They
right.
won't. I know. It's amazing about chickens. My daughter wants to
Yeah.
kill one right now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I have
Uh,
I don't call my chickens. All I have is I'm a wimp that way. I'm, with animals and stuff.
Yeah.
But
I want you to promise me something. I want you
sure.
to look up how to pull wire out of your house. When the time's coming, I will alert you. I promise. Okay.
Okay. All
You got to
right.
get the
Excellent.
wire out of your house. You're going to throw away all the stuff that will burn it to the ground. Because when that CME hits, it will burn you to the ground. So let's teach you how to get it out of there before that.
Okay. Okay.
You're going to go off
Absolutely.
grid. Okay.
Okay.
All right.
All right.
There's a
Go ahead,
reason so
Preston.
many people are going off grid now. I think people are waking up. Off grid is a
Right.
huge thing. I mean, there are
Yeah.
TV shows about it. It's a
Yes, of
very
course.
popular
Of
thing.
course. Of course,
Right.
because some people are waking up and there's other people that make shows about it because they're making money from it, not because they're actually doing it. You know what I'm saying? Then
Right.
there's the people that actually
Right. Yeah, well, there's two reasons why this is coming, but look at what the governments are doing. We're facing
well,
some serious stuff. You need to be
yeah.
working this out now. Okay.
Exactly.
Important.
Exactly. Yeah. And I agree. People, we need smaller communities in the sense of
Helping
neighbors
each
and,
other. Right.
like smaller communities,
Yeah.
even what you were saying as far as, if one does this and if you're, you grow vegetables and the other one grows potatoes and, whatever. But they say this is the kind of thing that you need to have in place
Right.
beforehand,
Right. Yes, because if you're starving, you're not going to think through it to do that at all.
Oh, absolutely not. Absolutely not.
So
No.
everybody needs to hear that message. You need to
Mhm.
now. Now is now. It's
Yep,
important.
absolutely. All right,
Okay.
guys, it has been absolutely wonderful to speak to you both. We've got to talk about this again. This is so interesting.
We will.
And I'm going to have a link to your website on the credits of the show. But if you want to go ahead for my podcast listeners, put out what is your website? I don't know,
Okay.
Dolly, do you have a website?
No, I
Okay,
didn't think
don't
that through.
No, don't
I
worry,
gotta,
don't worry. Preston, what's
once
your
I
website?
settle. Yeah.
Yeah, my website. Well, if you just punch in my name, it should take you there. It's prestondennett.weebly.com.
Okay.
And the book Symmetry is available on Amazon. You can also review it and read excerpts on my website.
Okay.
I've got a YouTube channel, Twitter, Instagram, all that stuff. Dolly does have a little YouTube channel where she's put out some of the films and photographs she's been able to take of Talata, who has graciously agreed to pose for a few pictures.
Okay.
Because, Dolly's story is amazing, but she does have the evidence to back it up. She's got corroboration from other witnesses. It matches pretty much exactly what I've been hearing from other people, very much piecemeal and through the lens of fear. But I mean, everything she's telling me, I've mostly have heard before, and she's got evidence to prove it.
Right. And don't discount the fact that ET's not physically here right now. You can still communicate with them. They keep in touch with us. They're connected to us. If you want to talk to them, meditate, learn to use your ability, and start talking to them. Don't be shocked when they answer you. Okay?
I can imagine some people jumping out of their shoes. Oh my God. Again, guys, thank you so much. It's been absolutely wonderful to speak to you both. Take care.
You're welcome. You too.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye-bye. Wow. Oh boy. I don't know what to say except wow. I love talking to somebody that was living in South Florida during all the years that I was living there and gets it. A lot of changes in that part of Florida. A lot. But it's really interesting to hear somebody that firsthand, because you hear people having at some point suspected either ET contact or being taken, but it's very, what can I say? Film. Either they kind of remember some of it later in life, or even what the recovered memories are kind of chopped up. And in other words, they have memories of being taken or being taken on board or things that happen, but not the kind of, not what Dolly's describing as far as the interaction with these beings, knowing their names. In other words, that it wasn't just always on a something I remembered, but an active relationship, I guess, is the only way to look at it, between her and these beings, uh, and what they explained to her as far as what their interaction is with humans, and also what their I don't want to say their mission, because I don't want to say it's a mission, but maybe the reason why they're here, or are they observing us, or in the case of what they explain, that it's more than observation, was there tweaking of our genetics. I don't know which way it would go. Is it one of them, all of them, some of them? Are some of them just watching us while others are actually interacting with us? Are there some that are taking genetic material from us, but not really like developing a relationship with us? Or like what she described, um, that reptilian encounter that she described in the Everglades, because once upon a time the Everglades basically came up to the west end of Miami-Dade County. All right, little by little it got pushed further back because of development. But the years that she's talking about, the Everglades, you were on the Everglades, and it makes you wonder, did this thing seek her out? Mm, how did it know it was there? I mean, or why was she? It almost makes you. Part of me when she was describing that was, did this choose her at that particular moment because she had a relationship with these other ETs? Almost like, how kids, I want what you got, or or I guess what I'm thinking of is, because that's where she was talking about that she had that encounter with that reptilian, was it's a pretty remote area, okay? And that this thing, was it happenstance, or was she targeted because of maybe her relationship with the other ETs? And it's, we want you, and I hate to think that what she was saying, that with to eat her. God, that's pretty horrible. And one of the things that I forgot to ask her, and I wish I had, was when she, at the very beginning, she describes how she comes back and she's got on different pajamas and they're on backwards. The first thing I think of is, I'm sure you've heard of David Paulides' Missing 411, and how he's described how some of these people or children, the ones that are found, whether dead or alive in some cases, besides being found in places that it's like, she described that. He's described where sometimes their clothing is on backwards. Let's say your pants or your pajamas are on backwards. And then I think in a couple of cases, there was stuff where the clothing did not fit, weird stuff. And I thought, wow, God, this sounds exactly the same thing. Like exactly the same thing. Like you're being returned with, it's like, okay, whose pajamas are these? Like, you go to a wild party and all of a sudden, you know, you don't remember anything. And then what comes to mind is, boy, I don't remember, how did this happen? Or how did I get this piece of clothing? Or, that kind of stuff. So I don't know. A lot of good information, but still a lot of questions remain. And let me tell you, whether your belief is an extraterrestrials, whatever. If whether you believe in ETs or not, or even if you do, maybe the way you think of them or their involvement with us is totally different than from what Dolly and Preston described. I do believe in one, especially one thing she said at the end, as far as um, you know, us being how can I tell you, needing to become more self-sufficient and not so sufficient on technology. Okay. And you know what? I'm going to say this because of my age. I can say it. I've lived basically lucky enough to live during a time period where, like I said, I've in the amount of life that I've lived, these huge leaps in technology have occurred. Okay. Huge leaps of technology. So much so that, like, I was telling her, hey, yeah, I grew up where in a very hot subtropical climate where you turn on the air conditioning at night on a window unit, and the rest of the time you lived, went to school and everything with just a fan, and you didn't suffer for it. And now I admit I'm a wimp, like a lot of other people, especially, like I said, in a very hot subtropical climate that there is in South Florida. If you're not in air conditioning, you're like, oh my God. And I'm thinking, man, I was fine. And by the way, it wasn't because I was a kid. My whole family was like that. Yeah, eventually, you move into a house and you get the central AC. But for many, many, many years, and it wasn't like you felt like, oh, I'm deprived. And I tell everybody, same thing, there was there was a couple of phones in the house, one in the kitchen, and I remember my mom put one in her bedroom. All right. And, there was no answering machine, no beepers, no nothing. I remember that. And nobody felt deprived. It wasn't like we were living in a third world country. People, communicate with drums or smoke signals. That was just life, which, by the way, and I've said it before, in some cases, looking back at it, it was better because we did not live in such an on-demand life where people expect you to be uh, always there, always available. Um, if people called and you didn't answer, they assumed one, you weren't at home, and they would call back in a little bit. Same thing. Anybody that called, there was no answering machine. This was pre an answering machine. Yeah, eventually, and same thing. You didn't. Nobody stressed about either not reaching you or you're not answering. You and snail mail was fine. No emails. Things got to you when they did, and again, when I think back, and in other words, if I do a comparison of that time period to now, like I said, I like the technology and some of the comforts, but it's not like I was deprived or I go, oh my God, those years that I was living in the Stone Age and I didn't have anything, and now, no, life was good. I slept well, I ate well, I dressed well, I was happy, I was in a modern society with all these things that now that we have as part of modern technology, which I agree with Dolly, have basically very insidiously worked itself into our what do you want to call it, our everyday life, so that we think it's necessary, to the point that a lot of us would not be able to manage, okay, without it. All right, it would be difficult not to have these things. We would be like, oh, I'm going to give you a perfect example. The phone. Okay, if the phones don't work, people feel like oh my God. Yeah. And once upon a time, nobody had a phone. Like I said, you had a phone at home, maybe at where you worked at. That was it. That was it. And the closest thing you had to an answering machine is if you were important enough at your job, you had a secretary that took your calls and wrote a pink memo with the message. Here it is. Here's your. Oh, well, you were busy or when you were out, this person called. That was it. And everybody survived. As a matter of fact, I think it was a lot less stress. And again, there was more interpersonal contact. There was more self-reliance. Um, Despite everything, I think life was a lot slower. And in and of itself, it was more enjoyable. How's that? It was more enjoyable. I tell everybody. When I was a kid, I remember Saturdays, I spent Saturday mornings like most kids watching TV, all the cartoons. And then right about 11 or 12, which is when all the morning cartoons were over and done with, I was outside playing with all the neighborhood kids running around. Okay. Until my mom and all the moms in the neighborhood, like when it's getting dark, you got to come inside. All right. And that's what life was. And I think about the only times I ever stayed was if it was raining. And then I remember I would catch some of like these afternoon movies like The Fly or something like that. It was great. Same thing on school days. I remember I used to get home. They used to have dark shadows. I would watch TV a couple of hours and then to take a bath, do my homework, eat dinner. My family, we sat outside. We sat outside in lawn chairs after dinner. We talked. Imagine that. We talked. If it was a really nice night, sometimes we would walk around the block, just walk. Yeah. And then we'd come inside. I remember my grandfather would watch news like earlier in the day, like early in the evening. We'd come inside and we'd watch some TV, whatever. And then that's it. It was time to go to sleep because you have to get up early the next morning to go to work and to go to school. And believe it or not, it was a wonderful existence. It was a wonderful existence because a lot of the things that now people think of as are fantastic, when you have that perspective that I have or that other people my age have, look at it and you go, yeah, the trade-off, I don't know. It's great. Because if there's an emergency or you're stuck on the road, it's great to have a phone. But you know what? During those times, here in Florida at least, if you got a flat tire, Florida, the state, the highway patrol would come and help you change your tire. And I'm not talking about the road rangers as in I'm talking about the actual troopers would come and help you change a tire. So see, there's always a lot of food for thought on what we were talking about. Again, guys, please don't forget, subscribe, hit a like, wherever you find us, if it's on any of the video platforms, YouTube, I'm on BitChute, I'm on Steemit, I'm on Rumble, I'm everywhere. I'm everywhere. Also on all the podcast platforms, you can find me there. And please go ahead and subscribe, and especially to the Substack list that I have, which it's a newsletter, and you can get updated on anything. And of course, go to MiamiGhostChronicles.com and you can find links to everything I'm talking about. Get links to video shows. You get links to the podcast. The podcast, especially, you can listen on the browser or download the MP3 files without commercial interruptions. So until next time, I've got a lot of great guests coming on. I will see you soon. Take care.